Now, before I talk about who the Houston Texans ultimately hired to be their next head coach, I want to take a moment or two and talk a little bit about their last head coach, David Culley. And I can certainly understand those that maybe felt that David Culley wasn't a great head coach, that felt like, you know what, you went into this situation knowing Deshaun Watson might not play in 2021. You went into this situation knowing that you were a fallback, stopgap type of guy. You went into this situation like, yeah, you're getting a head coaching opportunity, but it might not be for very long, so just kind of shut up and take it. I get all of that. And it's not unfounded or unmerited to say that. However, David Culley got screwed here. Like, just the mere fact that it took the Texans until the Thursday after the regular season ended. It took them 4 whole days to determine that they didn't want to have David Culley as their head coach anymore. Like, that was straight clown school shit. Seriously, when you look at the Houston Texans, what are you firing David Culley for after 1 year? Because he was always going to be a stopgap 1-year guy? And you threw a little bit more money on the contract later, that way you could give him a bit of a severance package? Like, what the fuck was it? Seriously. Are you mad because you didn't get the number 1 overall pick? Is that the axe that Caserio and the Texans organization are trying to grind here against David Culley? Because last time I checked, this roster was arguably the absolute worst in the National Football League. And not only did they not finish with the worst record, they didn't even finish with the worst record in their own division. And you might say, well, whoop-de-fucking-do, 4-13, ain't anything to write home about. I grant you that. But seriously, how many games was David Culley supposed to win with this roster? And you're going to say, well, he beat the Jags twice. Okay. He beat the Jags twice. He also beat the Tennessee Titans. They went 3-3 in the division. Their other win was against the Chargers. Like, yeah, it was 2 victories against the scrub-ass Jags, but there were also 2 pretty quality victories mixed in. Like, what the hell else was he supposed to do? So I understand it's a confluence, a combination of circumstances and situations, what have you, but David Culley got screwed here at the end of the day, and it's a shame that he worked for so many decades to get to this spot, and he got exactly 1 year to do it. Like, that was crap. That was crap. Even if I feel like the Houston Texans ultimately chose a better head coach, you know, to lead them in 2022 and at least hopefully 2023 if we can get ambitious here. But yeah, like that sucks. I'm sorry. That bothers you because you wanted David Culley gone. Well, too fucking bad. Now, it was interesting. We saw a lot of the reports with the Houston Texans and their head coaching search once they fired David Culley. Like, a lot of the talk started to center around Brian Flores maybe and some of the reports of him and Deshaun Watson and their relationship. You started to see talks in recent days about Josh McCown getting the old Steve Nash, Derek Fisher, Jason Kidd treatment. Nah, you don't need to have any coaching experience at this level. We'll just make you a head coach. And then ultimately, apparently, the decision was made to go in a different direction. Now, I want to say this. If the Houston Texans truly felt that Josh McCown was the right guy, and they truly felt like he was the best person for the job, damn the outside conversation, damn what anybody has to say. At the end of the day, you have to make that decision. And you deal with the consequences accordingly. Now, the Houston Texans, just had a minority head coach. So it's a little bit harder to blame them as much if you say, well, they're just a reflection of the problem because all these other teams are getting a bunch of pasty faces. Well, yeah, I get the optics of you fire Culley after 1 year, what the fuck else are they supposed to do? And then you bring in a guy with absolutely no head coaching experience or even coordinator experience in Josh McCown. I get all of that. But, sometimes you have to take big risks and you take big gambles. Sometimes they pay off and sometimes they don't. Now, personally, if I was the Texans, would I be sitting there and beating down the door of Josh McCown to hire him as a head coach? No, I wouldn't. I think he could be a head coach and potentially a good one someday. But I don't see what the rush is. That said, I get what they were trying to go for here. But I'll say this, is that if this is your guy, like, damn the response and damn the consequences. You can't control what other teams did in terms of who they hired or who they didn't hire. And you have to take care of your own business and hire the best person for your job. Whether they're black, white, brown, green, it does not matter. And I think if anything, it points to just the shit show that is the Houston Texans organization, because to sit there and just basically say, no, we're not going to go in that direction, and you know it was solely due to fear of public outcry, like, that's not the way you run an organization, period. But then we get to Lovie Smith. And you're going to have those that say, well, why the hell did you fire David Culley just to hire Lovie Smith as defensive coordinator in-house? Valid question. Valid question. And I'm not here to push back against that too much. I'm not here to disagree with that, because it is a very fair question. Like, you had all these candidates and did all these interviews. You had all those names out there, and you ended up settling on the head coach that you just fired, his defensive coordinator, who's had 2 previous opportunities to be a head coach in the NFL. And a lot of times those guys in their third jobs, it doesn't always go so well. Although that's not totally, entirely true. Pete Carroll, in his third head coaching job, went to back-to-back Super Bowls in Seattle. I'm just saying. That's one. Dan Reeves, like, you look at him, his third stop was Atlanta. That 98 season, even though he missed some time due to the health concerns. Like, they went 14-2. Remember the Dirty Bird Falcons? Yeah, they went to the Super Bowl. So it's not always a loser here. But he also, if you got to look at the merits, like if you were even comparing David Culley's resume to Lovie Smith's, like Lovie Smith blows his away. Lovie Smith has been an NFL head coach. He has 11 seasons of experience at that level as a head coach. He has a career-winning record. Now, you could say for a guy that's 63 years old and got basically the Santa beard now, like, does he really give a shit? Is he really up to it? Is he going to be an example of the game has kind of passed him by? Time will tell. But I'm here to tell Texans fans, as somebody that's a Bears fan, to watch Lovie Smith for his 9 years at the helm of the Bears, you got a good leader. You got a leader of men, a guy that can establish a program. You'll hear him talk a lot about, especially in introductory processes. We're going to build the program. That's the key thing of building the program. Yeah, that's what you're getting. And he will have an approach. He will have a philosophy. You will have a clear identity. Whether that works out or not remains to be seen. But damn it, am I excited for Lovie Smith to get another head coaching opportunity in the NFL. Just think of the history here. I think this is the first time a black head coach has gotten a third opportunity. Or any minority coach for that matter. Like, that is, in the face of an offseason talking about this NFL head coaching carousel that hasn't produced a lot of positive optics, like, that's not exactly a negative here. Is that he's basically getting white guy treatment. Because people love Lovie. But at 63, he's getting a third head coaching opportunity. Jim Caldwell, unfortunately, didn't, but Jim Caldwell is also a few years older, which might speak more to age discrimination than it does necessarily racial discrimination. But Lovie getting this third opportunity, you know, yes, at the end of his Bears tenure, I was ready for him to go. 9 years was enough. It was time for a change. Just because the Bears fucked it up afterwards doesn't mean that it wasn't right to do the change. But you'll still have Bears fans to this day very divided on this topic of whether or not Lovie Smith should have been sent packing after the 2012 season. You know, I can certainly say beyond question, he got hosed down in Tampa. He got 2 years. He had the first year, wasn't it, without Jameis, and then the second year with Jameis. And they won 6 games, and they got fired for Dirk Cutter. And how the hell did that work out? Well, Bucs fans might say, well, it eventually led to Bruce Arians coming and led to Tom Brady coming and winning a Super Bowl. So it might have worked out peachy. But the point I'm getting at here is, Lovie didn't get the time that he should have gotten in Tampa. He just didn't. He got hosed. He absolutely got freaking hosed for an inferior offensive coordinator. So yes, I'm incredibly happy for Lovie that he gets this opportunity. I'm happy for the Houston Texans that they got somebody that is a good leader, a leader of men, that will institute a program. Now, you might say, well, is his approach and philosophy dated? Again, time will tell, especially at the head coaching level. But, you know, I saw somebody the other day tweeted out something about how could they get this process so wrong? They should have hired Brian Flores. Hey, fuck you. you're looking at qualifications and you think Brian Flores is more qualified than Lovie Smith, you're a fucking moron. Only one of those two went to a Super Bowl with Bears football and Sexy Rexy as his quarterback. And it sure as fuck wasn't Brian Flores. Like, if you want to roll with Davis Mills, Lovie Smith is a tremendous guy to have with that young quarterback in terms of having belief in that young quarterback and supporting that young quarterback and defending that young quarterback sometimes to a goddamn fault. Brian Flores would bench him 3 times in 8 weeks. Lovie will stubbornly stick with them again to his own detriment. See Rex Grossman. Now, Texas fans, get ready for we're 3-7 with Davis Mills. Davis Mills is our quarterback. Now, guys, we're 3-7 with Davis Mills as our quarterback, and we're not changing. Get ready for, well, maybe it won't be so bad because Texas defensive players have been in his system for a year, so maybe you'll avoid the hamstring injuries that were epidemic throughout the Bears back in 2004 as he was trying to get people to lose weight, and he was all about speed. But, you know, the Houston Texans, beyond question, are a train wreck. They're a mess. And if you're looking to somewhat change the culture, Lovie is a change the culture kind of guy. Whether this will work out or not, like, I certainly have my reservations, yes. But there's no guarantee that you bring in any of these other coaches that they're going to want to do any differently. Like, maybe it's a good marriage of Lovie was just desperate for one last shot as an NFL head coach, and the Texans were desperate for a head coach that people wouldn't sit there and lampoon them for, like if they hired Josh McCown. As far as the whole thing about Brian Flores and he thinks the lawsuit kept him from getting hired here, again, I'm going to point to anybody that says that. If you say Lovie Smith represents a token hire, maybe he does in Casario's mind. Maybe he does in the McNair family's mind. I could also point to and say, similar to Jim Caldwell, he was as qualified as a candidate that there was in the coaching marketplace. Fuck a Brian Flores. Fuck a Josh McCown. If you think Brian Flores was a more qualified option than Lovie Smith, you are stupid. There's no spin. I'm not trying to try and soften the blow here. Like, you're a fucking moron. You are. And that includes Brian Flores. You cannot possibly look at Lovie Smith and think that your dumbass resume, being the Black Adam Gase for 3 years and fucking Miami, makes you more qualified than damn Lovie Smith, who took a Bears team, missing 2 of their defensive stars in 2006, and Tommy Harris and Mike Brown, saddled with Sexy Rexy as his quarterback, to a fucking Super Bowl. Fuck you! I'm really happy for Lovie Smith, though. He deserved one last chance. Once I started to see that this was becoming a thing, like, it piqued my interest. Because I always have a little bit of loyalty to Lovie Smith. Now, I'd even quipped at one point, like, if the Bears are going to sit there and hire Jim Caldwell, why don't you just hire Lovie Smith? Like, we'll see if he lasts more than a year, but I hope he does. He needs to be given at least 2-3 seasons to show what he can do. But if you're looking for somebody that can make this Texans organization, this Texans team a little less shitty, Lovie Smith can absolutely do that. So Texans fans, feel how you want about it right now, because there's not a lot of good, positive vibes when you're talking about being a Houston Texans fan. But this isn't a reason for a ton of negativity, I promise you.